Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Golden Astrologer Podcast. This is Deb McBride, and I am here in lovely Escazú, where it is raining on Sunday, the 23rd of June in the year 2024. And if you hear rain in the background, I apologize, but I've been sitting here for an hour waiting to do this because I was waiting for the rain to calm down. And so I just waited no longer and have now started. So I apologize for background noise. It is rain. It's not my microphone, it's the rain. So it's in rainy season here in Costa Rica, and you can probably hear thunder, but that's where we're at right now. And I am here on this, rain is lovely here. So I'm here on this lovely Sunday to give you information about the week ahead. I do think the last week was emotional. I certainly felt emotional with 3 planets entering the sign of Cancer. I do believe that this is a watery, emotional time, and the full moon was no exception. I think it was a very emotional, sensitive week. The big event of the week ahead is that Saturn is going retrograde, and that is going to occur on Saturday the 29th. So not until the end of the week, right before we do this podcast again, but Saturn is going retrograde. It is going to retrograde until the 15th of November. It is at the degree of Pisces, 19 degrees of Pisces. And in this time, as Saturn gets ready to end its trip through Pisces, which it's going to do next year, it still has, obviously another 11 degrees in the sign of Pisces. It's going to retrograde back to 13 degrees and then come back again. So we are looking at these last months where it's been since March or so, and a review of these months, because before that, it's not going back to where it was. It's not going back to where it was back in February and January. It's going back to where it was back in March, at the end of March, really. And so what have we been doing? April, May, June, the stuff that we've experienced, the things that we are knowing about, the things that we have been investigating and working on, Saturn's always worked in our lives, that have to do with Pisces, the Pisces things such as healing, such as emotions, such as spirit, and such as faith. Where are we going with where we've been in these last months? And we're going to review these things up until November, when it turns direct again and then proceeds through the rest of 13 degrees Pisces, and then goes to the end, and then eventually goes into Aries next year for a little bit, turns around, etc. We're not there yet. Let's just focus on Pisces. Pisces is the sign of faith. It is the sign of spirit. It is a duality sign. Most mutable signs are dual in nature. It's obvious to see Gemini as a dual sign, right? But Pisces is also a duality. And, I think when we talk about duality, it's about walking in duality. It's about, showing up for work when you're not feeling well. It's showing up to your marriage when you've got kids that are a problem. Showing up when you don't feel like it, or holding the space of your life when maybe one of your parents isn't well. There's that duality of light and dark. There's the, yes, my life is great, but then there's this other thing going on that I need to cope with that is complicated for me. And so Pisces emphasizes that, the duality, the connection to spirit, and still needing to be walking on the earth as a functional 3D person, right? Saturn is very 3D. It's very material world, where Pisces is not. It's really, to me, Pisces is the 5D. It's the quantum field. It's the realms that are unseen. And it's not what we are seeing in everyday life, but Saturn wants evidence. And that's a complicated thing when we put Saturn in Pisces. Saturn really does not belong in Pisces, right? When it goes into Pisces, it's like, what on earth is this? And if you've had a Saturn transit through your 12th house, which I'm sure most of you have. If you are over the age of 30, you've experienced that. It may have been when you were a kid, and you don't know. But Saturn in Pisces is like Saturn in your 12th house, and that divine discontent, that is, why should I believe in this? That is, why am I believing in this? This seems like it's a hopeless case. Why should I put my faith there? Saturn is, remember that new look at an old devil, Liz Green. That new look at an old devil. It's what is the devil? When you see the devil depicted in films and in culture, what do you see? You see someone who's trying to reason with you about what you see in the material world, and that you should not have any faith in anything, right? There's hopelessness, there's despair. And that experience of hopelessness and despair is very, very Saturnine in a place like Pisces. Pisces wants us to believe. And it's so hard to get past that barrier of why I should believe in this anymore. Why should I believe in you anymore? Why should I believe in us anymore? Why should I believe in this anymore? Very hard to get past that barrier. Saturn is a barrier. Saturn asks us to go beyond the barrier. Saturn's an interesting planet. And I did a lecture this morning for Internations, and I did a lecture about the planets. And when we get into Saturn is really, it stops a lot of things. It's this impedance. There's an impeding force here. We can't go any further. There's a roadblock. Sorry. You can't go down this street. It's blocked. And if you're crafty, you drive around the cones and you get down the street because you got to park there because you're going to visit your cousins who live on that street. So what happens with Saturn is it appears to be a roadblock. It appears that nothing is going to let us through until we confront our fears, our anxieties, our own obstacles that we throw in the way of ourselves that say we can't do this. I can't do that. Now, maybe you really can't. But that is up to you to decide. And when you start to say things like, this is too much work, this is too much effort, that's Saturn. Wherever Saturn is in your chart, Saturn doesn't allow you to freely express yourself in that house with those planets. Wherever it is, it's showing you where you need to do some work, because Saturn always wants us to work, to get past what is in your way or apparently in your way. Now, many years ago, when I was reading Robert Hand's book, Horoscope Symbols, he describes every planet. It's a very good basic book on the planets, the signs, etc. And I remember him saying that Saturn is the illusion of time and reality. And Neptune is the reality that, that it's, we associate Neptune with illusion, right? But it's the reality that this is not real. That it's showing us that what we're in, the world, that life is an illusion, but that's the reality of it. I know that's like a mind bender, right? Saturn is the illusion of reality and time. And time is an illusion. Time is something somebody created. They worked with this time, the sun sets, the sun rises, etc. That has no bearing on what's really going on. Okay? And this calendar and this clock and everything, if we lived without all of those structures, and that's what Saturn does, it creates structures. If we lived without all those structures, we would live very differently. And we would not have this closed concept of reality and time. And we would be able to flow a little better in our lives. Saturn is also very positive when you work through something and you're trying to achieve something, and you take the necessary steps with devotion and commitment and focus, and you create something out of that because you have taken the necessary responsibilities towards it, and you've followed it step by step. It's very good. Those things work. That doesn't always work, though. It doesn't always work. And when it's in Pisces, it's a wild card. It works. Saturn in Virgo works that way, the opposite of Pisces. But Saturn in Pisces is like, well, what is illusion and what is reality? And what is my reality and where am I deluding myself? Because we're still dealing with the qualities of Neptune. We're still dealing with Neptune's domain that Saturn has entered. Remember back, well, maybe you don't, but in the late 80s and early 90s, Neptune was in Capricorn, which also was weird. Saturn in Pisces, Neptune in Capricorn, these things are weird. But Neptune and Uranus, which was there at the same time, transformed the way we work and the way we interact and work, because the internet evolved out of that. And then the internet came and we worked completely differently. And obviously now we've really worked very differently with the internet. I'm sitting here in Costa Rica broadcasting to you. You may be in Australia or Tokyo or someplace, and you're listening to me in rainy Costa Rica. But that Neptune erased the boundaries, and Saturn loves boundaries. Saturn's the planet of boundaries. And when we start to talk about boundaries, and when we start to talk about structure and order and discipline, yes, those are all good Saturnine things. We need some structure in our lives. And we do need boundaries, because even if we had no calendar and no time and everything, what would happen? There would be some chaos, wouldn't there? Like, maybe on your weekend, you don't want to look at your watch. You don't want to set your alarm. You want to be free. You want to sleep. You want to go out and experience life from sunrise to sunset, and then beyond that. But Saturn in Pisces starts to bend reality in a whole new concept, because if we took away the structures, then what would happen? What time am I supposed to go to work? Is there a time? When am I supposed to show up? Well, then you got to get the bus or the train, and there's no schedule. It just shows up. And it's a little too flowy, right? It's a little too ambiguous, too nebulous, too much in the fog. And so when we work with Saturn's energy, we like the structure. It gives us something to hold on to. It gives us something credible. It gives us something tangible we can hold in our hand. Except when it's going retrograde in Pisces, it's not as tangible as we would like it to be. We're looking for the tangible thing. We're looking for something to clasp onto in a world of intangibles. Neptune, Pisces, these are worlds of intangibles. And worlds of intangibles on a certain level is really kind of frightening, right? It's a little frightening to walk into the fog and you see nothing in front of you. That's what Saturn's trying to do. Pave a path in the fog and create a structure in the fog. Well, what does that structure look like? I don't know. I can't see it. There's too much fog. Meanwhile, while Saturn is starting to station, and Saturn is only like 2 minutes from where it's going to retrograde. As I speak, it's only 2 minutes away from where it's going to retrograde. We are now going into the station of Neptune. And I mentioned this last week. I talked very much about Neptune, and that, Neptune is going to do this. This is Saturday the 29th that Saturn will do its retrograde. It'll pivot in 19 degrees of Pisces. But then on Tuesday, a few days later, the 2nd of July, can you believe it's July already? That's a whole other world, whole other conversation having to do with time. Neptune's going to retrograde on Tuesday the 2nd till December 7th. So we've got the two of them in Pisces, and when planets are close to one another in the same sign, they are sticking together sort of on the same schedule. So remember back in the Saturn-Pluto heyday of 2020, those planets were all staying close to one another as far as retrograding and stationing. That was Saturn and Pluto and Jupiter, even though like Saturn and Jupiter, I remember, went retrograde together in the same week. like Saturn and Neptune are. They were both in Capricorn. Pluto went at a different time. Pluto went earlier. But these two are, Saturn and Neptune are now very close to one another, 10 degrees apart. That's pretty close. And they are retrograding within a few days of each other, essentially in the same week. So this is the nature when planets are, especially outer planets, are close to one another. They are very much going to do this dance around the same time as one another. So this is a very complicated engagement. Neptune belongs in Pisces, yet it has undermined a lot of things in Pisces. It does not always make us feel secure. Saturn wants security, but it's Neptune underneath all of this. It has undermined security in the fact that we have to be flowing and trusting life and trusting universe, God, source, goddess, whatever we believe in. And that is a complicated thing, especially when Saturn goes into Pisces. Now, Saturn went in last year in 2023, in March of 2023, and it's been there ever since. And what we're going to start seeing is this, conjoining of Saturn and Neptune next year, which is going to be a whole phenomenal thing. And very powerful, very powerful. So once we get past all this Pluto business in Aquarius to Capricorn, back into Aquarius again, we're going to get into this Saturn-Neptune thing, and that's going to be the theme of 2025. But right now, we've got both of them in Pisces, and we're dealing with the disbelief that Saturn brings towards anything other than this 3D reality. And there is going to be some shakeup in these days of what you believe in, what you put your faith in, how you put your faith in something or not put your faith in something. This is a very interesting thing I had happen 2 weeks ago. I'm a spiritual person, not particularly religious, don't really subscribe to organized religion, even though I was raised Catholic. But a couple weeks ago, I had this dream that I was in an office in Manhattan, where I haven't been in many, many years. I was in some office in Manhattan. I was alone in the office because there appeared to be something going on in the world that was profoundly troubling, and people all went home early. So it was like an apocalyptic moment, Although I didn't feel apocalyptic in the dream, I just noticed that there was trouble in the air and that people were leaving to go home early to stay home and be safe. That sounds like Saturn, right? Do something very not risky. But I walked into a room and there was a little statue of the Blessed Mother Mary on the floor in the room in my dream. And what happened was she came alive. Now, like I said, I'm not a religious person. I don't go to Lourdes. I don't go to Medjugorje. But this was one of those episodes that happens. I do believe in spirit. And if Mary, the goddess, appears to people, then hey, great, But the statue in my dream came alive. And she spoke. And she was talking to me. And she was saying, people on this earth need to start treating each other so much better. They need to treat each other with love and kindness and, empathy, and stop all this war and fighting. Okay, now I'm not someone who watches the news either, and there's the thunder. There's the thunder. I don't watch the news because I'm really psychically sensitive and I take it in, and it's very upsetting to me. Things upset me. So I didn't sit and watch the news. I wasn't reading the Bible. Mary showed up in my dream, the goddess, and she said, to me, that's the goddess. To me, she says, people need to stop this. And she was very much alive and waving her hands and gesturing and saying that we need to shape up on this earth, that we need to get it together. And I woke up. It was like 4 a.m. I woke up and I was like, what was that? What did I eat before I went to sleep? What was that? And one of my friends said, she chose you to speak to. That friend is more Buddhist than anything. But I'm like, what was that? And I told people this happened, and it's a profound experience, okay? I'm not going to discredit it at all. It was a profound experience, and this deity came to me and said, you guys need to get it together on this earth. And that, to me, was very much about Saturn and Neptune and Pisces. A statue is Saturn. She comes alive. That's disbelief. That's Neptune. That's Pisces. And she delivers this spiritual message. And she says, you have to start dealing with each other deeply, profoundly better. And and I'm thinking in this moment, as I said last week, of the surrender of Neptune at 29 Pisces, this moment of just deep surrender to the universe, to God, to Goddess, to Source, and to connecting with something to believe in. And I understand that Saturn and Neptune with this retrograde is going to ask us, these retrogrades, because both of them are going, and the lightning just struck, this is something that we really need to get a handle on. We need to manage like our anger, our frustration, etc., but we need to get in touch with something greater than ourselves. I don't know if you hear that thunder. Greater than ourselves. This is very important. Getting in touch with something greater than ourselves. We're not the be-all, end-all. It does not begin and end with us. It is not about this 3D reality, okay? There is a spirit world outside of us. This is my Pisces lecture for the weekend, right? And this is something that's very important, There is spirit and there's matter and there's energy, and energy is in the spirit realm. And what I've said before and what I will say again, it has to be in 5D before it comes 3D. It has to be in spirit before it becomes matter. It has to be an idea or a thought or creative inspiration before you turn it into a project, right? It has to be, it's not, when your thoughts and creativity are coming to you and you're flowing in creative juices, those are not material. Where are they coming from? They're coming from spirit. They're coming from the 5D. They're coming from the quantum field. Like, wow, yeah, I'm going to tap into that. Maybe it'll manifest into something. You write it down on paper and it's something. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe you're like, nah, I don't think so. Next week, maybe I'll try something different. But there's that 5D. There's that quantum realm where we are already pulling something in our field. This is where we're magnetizing. This is where we do the manifestation, and then it becomes reality. That's what my new vision system measures. It's measuring what's in your field, emotions, physical things, what's happening before it becomes matter. And some of the things are old stuff, emotional patterns. That's what new vision measures before. So this is why we have it, because we're looking at what's coming down the pike for you emotionally or physically. I'm not the physical person. My friend Gwen Foster's the physical person. She's the naturopathic doctor. So, when we're looking at this, it's what's coming for you. What is showing up in your hand? What's going to show up in your hand or in your body or in your field? What's coming in the field for you? Yeah. And that's going to become part of the material reality. This is what Saturn and Neptune are doing in Pisces. All of that unseen realm, and then how it shows up materially. Mercury is going to provoke Saturn this week. Mercury's a busy bunny this week. Mercury is still joined Cancer, went into Cancer Monday of this past week, not even a week ago, and it's trining Saturn on Wednesday the 26th to 2:10 p.m. Eastern Time, Wednesday the 26th. So Mercury is talking to Saturn, and we are getting a glimpse of what Saturn has to say to Mercury and what information we can glean from this retrograde. But Saturn will be stopping at that point. And Mercury is having a conversation with Saturn. So Saturn, tell me, what's going on for you? What's this about? What's happening? What is this retrograde business? All of this while the moon has gone into Pisces on Wednesday. So Moon is going to be talking to Saturn also more on Thursday, but Moon will be talking to Jupiter in a square, trining Venus in Cancer, eventually trining Mercury, but not till the next day. There's a lot of dialogue going on Wednesday and Thursday. because of the moon in Pisces, because of, the Mercury in Cancer discussing things with Saturn. Mercury may be the planet of communication, but in Cancer, it's still a little elusive because Cancer is a water sign, and Mercury in a water sign isn't exactly verbal like it is in Gemini. Mercury is also going to be squaring Chiron on Friday, and that is more dialogue, more conversations, more intrigue. The moon is going to enter Aries that day on Friday the 28th, and Friday is going to be, we're going to see more Aries energy, but remember that all that Pisces that we have that's stationing and stopping, we're going to get that on Wednesday, Thursday, and in the wee hours of Friday. So we're getting revved up for this, and Saturn and Neptune are going to get triggered by the moon Wednesday, Thursday, really Thursday. And they are, we're going to get a real glimpse into what this is all about for us. What do we have to pay attention to? Where do we need to go inward? Because it's a retrograde. Where do we need to go inward over these next several months till November, December? What's that about for us? The other thing that I want to mention is that Mercury, like I said, is a busy bee. And he is going to talk to Uranus nicely on Saturday the 29th, so we're going to get some good information from him then. But, Mercury just went into Cancer on Monday. And by next Tuesday the 2nd, not this coming Tuesday, the following Tuesday, he'll only be there for 2 weeks, and he's leaving to go into Leo. And Mercury is leaving Cancer. He's like flying through Cancer for 2 weeks. And then he's going to go into Leo Tuesday the 2nd. And what will happen is he's going to eventually go in, get slower in Leo, go into Virgo, and turn around and go retrograde in August. So July he's going to spend mostly in Leo, step into Virgo, his own sign, and then step backwards and go back into Leo later in August. But really, Mercury is flying through the sign of Cancer and touching base with Saturn, touching base with Neptune. And that's more next week that it touches base with Neptune. But it's going to really take that step into Leo. Now, why is that important? Well, Leo's important because it's opposite Aquarius. And remember back in January, all the planets the inner planets started to one by one cross Pluto's throne in Aquarius. And now they're all going to oppose Pluto. So Mercury is going to be the first planet that opposes Pluto from Leo, other than the moon, which does this every month and has been doing this for months. But Mercury is going to be number one planet that goes into Leo and then talks to Pluto in an opposition. I don't think we got this far last year. We didn't get this far with Aquarius, Pluto. We didn't get so far that, the sun did not talk to Pluto in an opposition because Pluto had left and gone back into Capricorn. So this is something to watch. And we're going to be looking at this over these next weeks. Okay, we're still in the very early stages of Cancer. Obviously, the solstice was the other day. I hope it was lovely for you. But we are only in the beginnings of Cancer, and we're fine. It's that, like I said, that 0 degrees gets triggered. It triggers the whole transition. But the bigger trigger is going to come when things move from Cancer to Leo, and we start looking at the opposition of Leo to Aquarius, which is going to be very, very interesting. We don't know what that's like yet. We haven't experienced any of that yet, just with the moon, but it's so brief and fleeting that we can't really catch it. Sometimes it happens when we're sleeping, but this is going to be more significant as Mercury goes there. Right now, the moon is still in Capricorn, and it's going to go into Aquarius and cross over Pluto, but that's going to be much later tonight or early tomorrow morning in whatever region of the world you are in. For the Eastern time zone, the moon goes into Aquarius 11:14 p.m. tonight, which is 9:14 p.m. for me. Crosses Pluto 1:50 a.m. tomorrow morning, which is really 11:50 p.m. for me. So that's important. It's going to cross over and conjunct Pluto. This happens every month. It's very interesting. It's preparing us for what's to come as we get more and more into this Pluto transit in Aquarius. Okay? Other than this, I suggest you pay a lot of attention to your thoughts, your beliefs, your sensitivities, where you're getting triggered, and what feels like, healthy skepticism and downright belief in something. Okay, so, and beliefs are beliefs. They're not necessarily truth. They may be truth to us. So this is what Saturn and Neptune are asking us to look at. What do we believe in? What is truth for us? There's beliefs and there's truth. They're not necessarily the same. It's true that I'm sitting in Costa Rica. If life's an illusion, then who the hell knows where I am? But I'm sitting here in Costa Rica listening to the rainfall, and that is absolutely my truth and my belief right now. Beliefs are an idea that we have taken to be true. Okay? Beliefs are something we've taken to be true. Whether they are true or not is up for questioning. So that's what we have to question in these next days ahead, in this next week, when we get into Saturn turning retrograde and then Neptune turning retrograde. And I'll be with you again next Sunday. So I'll be here to discuss more about Neptune turning retrograde and the other wonderful things that we have going on in the following week. But question your beliefs, your truths. What do they mean for you? Not saying that they're not true. What I believe is different from what you believe. What I feel is to be true is not necessarily true for you. And this is where people get confused and angry. Okay? This is why Mary showed up in my dream saying, you all have to treat each other. You have to be tolerant. You have to be tolerant of my beliefs. Beliefs get people in a lot of trouble and in a lot of wars. Beliefs. Because somebody believes something and somebody believes something else. And some people are delusional and some people are not. And some people may call you delusional and you're not. This is a very tricky time. Welcome to the world of Pisces and Neptune. This is a really tricky time. I probably said this a year ago when Neptune was going retrograde and Saturn was going retrograde. If I went back and listened to my podcast from a year ago, I probably said the same thing. I feel like I did. But this is a very profound time of questioning beliefs, thoughts, truth, reality. I leave you with that. Thank you for listening. I'm Deb McBride. You can have a session with me and we can talk about beliefs and truth and reality and non-reality and duality in your astrology session or in your expansion mentoring session. If you want to work with me that way, you can contact me, info@thegoldenastrologer.com, deb@debmcbride.com, and also you can have a Reiki session with me, which takes us into the Piscean realms. And that's a 5D Reiki. So if you're interested in that, it's very healing, it's very soothing, it's a very wonderful, rich experience. So I hope you have a beautiful week ahead. See me on Instagram and see me here on this podcast, on my website, and we will see each other very soon when I come back between the stations of Saturn and Neptune next Sunday. Blessings to all. Gratitude to everyone. Have a beautiful week and thank you.